This here is my Ender 3 V2 from Creality. It's gotten a little dirty over the couple months that I've had it, so I'm going to do a deep cleaning inside and out. Hope you enjoy. I first started by turning off the printer and unplugging it so it has no direct power. Then I turned it around. That didn't go too well, almost fell off the counter, so I put my phone down until I could get it turned around. Then I started taking off the hot and cooling system by removing two little screws. I had forgotten to remove the filament, so I preheated the hot end and removed the filament. Once I had finished removing the filament, I cooled down my hot end and auto-homed my nozzle. Once it was finished, I moved my Z-axis up 41 millimeters. Then I moved the Y-axis forward 221 millimeters. Then I moved the X-axis 115 millimeters sideways. Then I started removing the extruder. I first started by removing the one screw that held the spring and the lever arm in place. Once I finished with that, I started removing the 3 screws that held the main part of the extruder on. Once that was done, I set down my motor and started to remove the base of the extruder from the PTFE tube. Once I had gotten the extruder off of my printer, I began disassembling it the rest of the way, first by taking one of the screws that held on the spring, then by taking off the bearing that guided the filament into the PTFE tube. Once I finished that, I began wiping everything down with a wet paper towel. This extruder will not rust because it is made of pure stainless steel. Then I started loosening these 2 bolts that held the Z-axis linear rod in place. It was very hard to do it with my phone in the way, so I did it one-handed, first by unplugging my motor and turning my printer off again because I had turned it back on previously. The bolts were too tight to do one-handed, so I put my phone down until I could get them loosened. Then I removed the linear rod completely from the printer and wiped everything down. It was very dirty since I have around 10 pets in my house. Once everything was back in place, I raised the Z-axis up manually and took off the silicone cover from my hot end. It was very dirty because I had not screwn on a nozzle all the way previously. I began to wipe it down with a wet paper towel and a brass brush. The hot nozzle began to purge a little bit of filament from the pressure buildup. Next, I am going to take off the PTFE tube from the hot end to see if any of it is burnt and needs trimming. Luckily, nothing was burnt, so I put it in right away and screw everything back together. Next, I'm going to wipe down all of the dust from the fans in the hot end cooling system. I simply just wipe them down with a paper towel, then put it back on the carriage. Once that is complete, I start putting back on my extruder. I first put the main part of the extruder over the extruder holder thing, drop one screw in, and then grab the motor, line it up, and screw it in. Once it is screwed in, I adjust it so it is straight and grab the other 3 screws to put in. Once that is done, I began putting on the lever arm. The spring was really hard to put in, but I eventually got it after a few tries. Once that was assembled, I grabbed a tiny little vacuum and started vacuuming up all of the dust and filament scraps. Then for the dust that the vacuum couldn't get up, I grabbed a paper towel to do that. Then I rinsed my print bed off with cold water since fibers from the paper towel got on the print bed. Once that was put back on, I tried to print 2 calibration cubes, but they both failed because there was something wrong with the STL that I sliced up. Since those didn't work, I decided to try a little benchy. So I loaded up some pretty teal filament, and then I got to printing. This Benchy is looking really good so far. I hope it finishes strong. Now that this Benchy is almost done, it's looking really good, besides minimal warping and a visible layer line. Luckily, that can be fixed with little to no calibrating. Thank you for staying until the end. If you enjoyed, make sure to like and subscribe for more 3D printing content in the future.